Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back on a Thursday. Just going to talk to you guys about some NBA stuff. Jay and I haven't given our 2 cents in at all on this Last Dance documentary, the whole Michael Jordan documentary about really I think the basis of it is that 98 championship season, but they cut back and forth to his rookie year and all of his other seasons. So Jay and I haven't talked about it much, and he just got caught up last night with all 8 episodes. So
finish episode 8.
We'll just get our thoughts on that. And also the NBA on Tuesday, I think it was Monday and Tuesday, there was a lot of talks about returning and a lot of optimism about returning instead of everyone saying, no, I don't think it can happen. I don't know what we're going to do. Adam Silver addressed teams. He addressed the NBA Players Association. There was a bunch of, players that just got together. And Chris Haynes reported it that Chris Paul held a conference call. I think it was a Zoom because they were all looked like they were on a Skype, kind of like Jay and I are doing right now. But it was Chris Paul, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Dame Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, and Steph. And they all said that they want to play this year. They want to continue the season. They don't want to squash anything as long as there's proper safety precautions taken on the court and like hotels and kind of what the NBA described it as is more of like a campus bubble. Like, I don't really know exactly what they're pretending. I think basically all they can do is go to the hotel, into the arena, whether it's to practice or whether it's to play the game. I don't know if they'll have other secluded areas in this so-called campus that they're calling it. I think that's just a nice way of putting it instead of like saying like a bubble or quarantined at a certain area. But another reason why they want to keep continuing to play, not only for the fact that, LeBron is running out of years in his prime left to, I think he still is in his prime, but he's running out of time to win chips. The Bucks are really good. The Kawhi probably thinks he has a chance. Same thing with Russell Westbrook and James Harden with the Rockets, but there could be effects regarding the collective bargaining agreement from years on down the road. So, you've got those things coming.
I also think that if you take a lot of time off, they're not in game shape right now, I don't think, because they've had so much time away. Yes, they've been practicing on their own, but you have to be playing
different.
Back to it is. So I could see, I hope it doesn't happen, but they're going to immediately jump back into games. I could see injury becoming an issue if you're jumping right back into the thick of a season. And I also want to point out that I really think the NBA fucked me on my LeBron for MVP $1,000 wager I had.
Yeah, they might have. Well, I wouldn't say the NBA did it. I would say this coronavirus is what really fucked you over.
Whoever you want to blame, I think I'm out $100
You
now.
probably are. But the thing is a lot of it, what they're talking about is they want to have like a 2-week training camp to where they get all the teams back, because on Monday, this upcoming Monday, the 18th, the league is hoping to have 22 of the 30 practice facilities open. So the only ones I don't think are able to open are, I think, the 4 teams in California, such as the Warriors, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Kings. I'm not sure which other states are falling behind a little bit, but probably the Knicks and the Nets, since they're right there in New York, where that's one of the epicenters. Just some of the bigger cities, maybe the Bulls in Chicago as well. But they want to have all these open so that they can at least get some sort of practice time. They want to get some sort of 2-week training camp type deal, and they maybe want. They talked about getting every team to 70 games. I don't know if that's going to happen, because
it'd be hard to do.
Based off of the last call with Adam Silver, I don't know if they're just going to go straight to like a 8-team or like a 16-team playoff or a 14-team playoff. The top 8 seeds, the top 7 seeds just go in, and we're just going to kind of go round robin from there. I don't know if that's what they want to do. I think all of these discussions are being talked about, from owners to general managers to people in the league office to players. I think everybody's getting their 2 cents in about what they want to do and what they think is best. And they said
I'm with you.
They said that their biggest issue, what Adam Silver said, which it's pretty obvious, it's the number of tests that they can acquire, because they said they don't want to take the tests away from people who need it. Because if there's just a bunch of rich NBA players wanting to play, and then everyone's thinking, oh, these rich owners just want to get to a certain amount of games so that helps their revenue or whatever. I mean, somebody like, I don't know, you or I, Jay, we're just normal people. What if we're
Yeah.
really sick and we can't get a corona test because the NBA took 5 million tests because they want to test every single player each day, before practice, after practice, before games, after games. They want to keep up with this testing so
You
that
got to
they don't
test the
spread it.
referees, all the
Yeah.
people in the building that mess with their clothes, and all the behind the scenes
Everyone, yeah, exactly.
operations.
Everyone associated with the team. I'm sure they'll have
So
some sort of the camera crews and the broadcast crews. And obviously, there's no fans. I mean, that's just clear. That's just not going to happen anymore, especially if they want to continue the season. There's just going to be no fans.
do you think that's going to be so weird? Because I
It
watched
is.
the last UFC event and they didn't have fans in the stadium
Mm-hmm.
arena or whatever they do, and it was so quiet. Even the announcers, when they were talking about the fight, like during the fight, analyzing it, they were like, "We might want to keep it down because they can hear us inside the cage," and like
Exactly.
it was like you could hear a pin drop, and like it was so odd not hearing like a big shot land and then not hearing fans behind them cheering or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So it's going to be the same way in the NBA. Somebody drives down, hits a clutch three, and it's like crickets.
Cricket, yeah, or
It's going to be.
exactly.
I think it's going to be hard for players to get up for it.
Giannis dunks
Honestly,
on somebody, and there's nobody there to scream and or heckle these guys because some of them feed off of getting heckled, like Russell Westbrook. I mean, just to name a guy. I mean, I don't know why everyone heckles him so much. I like watching him play, and I love him, but I don't know.
or even the opposite. Some players play just to for the fans and want to have
Agreed.
them cheering and everything. Like I remember when this first happened, didn't LeBron come out and say, "If the fans aren't there, I'm not playing because
Yes,
that's what
he
I play
did.
for."
He
And then he ended
he
up changing the
quickly he
statement.
quickly
Yeah,
went back on that because I think it was just a spur of the moment type thing. You just say it, and you don't really know all the
yeah.
facts and whatnot. And I
Either
think
way, though,
he
I
realized
feel
the
like that
severity of it.
it's going to take a lot out of the game. If I was out there playing, you don't give maximum effort in a pickup game. I mean, you play hard, you play to win, but you're
Absolutely
not
not.
going like it doesn't mean anything. I feel like a lot of the NBA players are going to take them as pickup games. If
And they
they don't
might.
have to play, do they want to hurt themselves? There's no fans there. What's the point of getting up and playing? We don't even know what's going to happen going forward. It's just odd to me. It's something
Competitiveness.
we've never seen.
I mean, just the fact that they just want to get out there and play. I mean, this is what these people do for their job. I mean, that's just.
It
I
is
mean,
their job.
they're just the best athletes in the world. To me, I think the NBA athletes are the best athletes all around. But I mean, yeah, I don't think. I do think it'll be weird. Maybe, and I don't know what they'll do with like benches, how the benches are able to celebrate and maybe try and pump up their team, or if they'll try and like pump in like crowd, like somewhat crowd noise in the through the speakers, or what they do if depending on if
How
you're.
would you feel if you were an opposing player?
But
Would
if
you
you're
would
a
you
home team and an away team, I mean, normally you would get home court advantage. So I mean, maybe it's just I don't know. I don't know if they want to if they're discussing those type of things.
My question was, if you were an opposing player going to someone else's home court, would you rather it be completely quiet, or would you rather them be able to use home court advantage and play noise just to have something?
If it was me, I'd rather at least have some sort of noise.
I think I would too.
I'd at least have something in the back. Like you used example for pickup. I mean, when we play pickup, we usually have some music
Music,
going
yeah.
on in the background, so it's not like you just hear the shoes crunching on the court or people smacking into each other. And obviously, you're going to hear those things still, but you at least have some sort of background noise that doesn't just make you start thinking about hearing just the ball dribble or I don't know, something else.
You'd
The
be
announcer,
surprised how
because
quiet it
you're
is.
going to hear the announcers because unless they're putting them way up in like
Even then, you're in an arena. If
but
you're
I
way
don't know
up,
if they're
you can
putting them
hear
in like
talk
a
from the
suite
court.
or something where they're
Yeah,
enclosed, so
true.
you wouldn't be able to hear these people. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
It's
just
going to be
weird.
very odd.
But then
So
how
what
do
do
you
you
do that
see
with the
happening?
referees?
What
Because
do
the
you think?
referees go over and tell the broadcast booth stuff.
Do you think they're going to start back up soon?
I think they're looking towards like starting back up at the end of June or at the beginning of June. I think that's what they wanted to do was have something to go at because they said Adam Silver said we've got a 2 to 4 week window from Tuesday on whether or not we're going to continue or not. So if they don't have a plan in the 2 to 4 week span, then I think they're just going to shut it down forever.
I think they'll figure something out.
I think they
Everything's
will
starting to open
too.
back up nationally,
Well, and the
and
governor of
they're
Florida
losing
said
money.
all live sports can come here and play just with no fans.
Well, I think they'll figure something
And
out.
that's something they talked about because Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, he called Adam Silver, and they were talking a lot with the owners and stuff about like how they can play in Disney World at the Wide World of Sports, because they've got all these courts, because they have so many events there with wrestling tournaments and volleyball tournaments. They've got the capacity to hold. Obviously they have the hotels to hold these people there around Orlando. That's somewhere that they could do it, and I think Florida's like the governor there's yearning for stuff to happen in the state. I mean, he's
They're
one of the
going to
more
get
proactive
creative with
guys.
it. They have to. I mean, I mentioned the UFC earlier when they canceled one of his big fight. The biggest fight was supposed to be, I know you,
I saw it
Tony
actually. The guy
Ferguson
that
versus
got they
Khabib.
got caught with the corona and he couldn't fight anymore.
Well, Dana said F this. He bought the UFC in Ireland and now calls it Fight Island, and they're about to start having fights on the island.
Really?
Yeah, so like
Wow.
people are that's just like an extreme, but I think teams are going to find creative ways to be able to play because one, I think America misses it. Two, it's in demand. Three, I think the owners are really wanting their money.
Hmm.
I think the players want paid because are the players getting paid right now?
I believe that they are. Some players have already been paid their entire salary throughout the season based off of how their contracts are set up.
But you mentioned earlier you got older guys like LeBron. We bring up LeBron a lot, but he's the icon of the
I mean,
NBA.
he's the guy right now. So yeah,
So
obviously we bring him up a
yeah,
lot.
you're losing some prime games and prime time that the little bit he has left in his career right now. The NBA knows that. The NBA knows he's the face of it.
Hmm.
They don't want to waste it away with this corona. So they'll find if it's possible in any capacity. I think the NBA will make it happen.
And I think they will. I've been I'm just sort of an optimistic person through life. I try to look at things the best and some sort of little lights in everything. But I've always been optimistic that they're going to come back. It's just going to take some time, and how the nation's progressing and whatnot. I think there's a way that you can do this, because I think I described it to you. I don't know if we talked about it on the last podcast. I may have told you what Universal Studios was doing. They're building a park in California, and how they had this set up was their employees were only allowed to go from the hotel to the job site, and they were getting tested when they got there and before they went home, and no one had been diagnosed with the
Confirmed. Yeah.
coronavirus. So they were just going back and forth, and it worked. So they have options to where this can work. It's just the players, and I think a lot of them will be willing to do this just for 2 months. You just can't see your family. You can't go out anywhere. You're in your hotel. You're in the gym. You're maybe, I don't know if they have a few restaurants available open where teams can go to team dinners or something like that, if that's something they want to do. But that's it.
If that's the case, I don't think they would. I don't think many players would sign off on not seeing their family for
I
2
do.
months.
I think there'd be a ton of people that would do it. I think
Yeah, but
90% of the league would.
I don't. And I think a lot of the big name guys would make a stand in that situation and say, I don't want to do it. And
I
the
mean, I
rest
just
would
named you
follow
off all
suit.
the 9 guys that want to continue the season. I mean, they're the biggest.
Yeah,
9
but
of the
I'm
biggest
sure when
names in
they
the
said,
entire
yeah, I
league.
want to continue the season, they weren't told, well, you don't get to see your family for 2 months either when they said that.
I mean, you think about it. They travel a lot. When they go on like road trips for 2 weeks, they don't see their family other than Skype or FaceTime or phone calls. Anyways, I know it's a
And two
little
weeks is
longer,
a long
obviously.
time. 2 months is
I
a
agree.
long time.
I'm just saying. I think there's a lot of people that would be willing to do it.
I don't know.
And
Either way, I hope it does. I want the NBA to start back up so bad.
another thing that Adam Silver said was, if there are positive tests, it's not going to shut us down.
I did see that.
If we see teams that or players that have one positive test, obviously they'll probably just quarantine that guy, retest him in 10 to 14 days, whatever it is, because he said if we're scared of that, we probably shouldn't even be going down this path anyways. So I'm glad that they're willing to do stuff, because baseball looks like they're dragging their feet. And I don't know if the MLB, and they haven't even started their season. I mean, I don't know if they're coming back, because now they want to cut down to 80 games. They're just in centralized locations. This one guy for the pitcher for the Rays, Blake Snell, said that if he doesn't get paid his full salary, he's not playing because it's not worth the risk. He said that, I think it was today or last night.
So he wants a full salary for an
Yeah.
80-game season.
Yes, and because that's half the season for Major League Baseball, because they play
Yeah.
162. They want to cut it down to 80. So I don't know. I don't really think that it's going to be hard for them to do it.
Let's just keep the optimism that the NBA will be back.
And I want the NBA to come back.
So do I.
I'm been dying. I mean, this was the best season we had in 4 years, man, and it got
then it
cut
gets-
short. It was awesome.
Yes, it was.
All right, let's get into this Last Dance, Jay.
Let's do it.
All right. I told you last week that there were a few parts that annoyed me, and it actually had nothing to do with Michael's playing career or anything like that. It was two things. I mean, there's other things that are just kind of annoying in there too, but these are the two things that really just annoyed me. The first thing, I think it was in episode 6. Is that the one where they talked a lot about the 92 Olympics and the Dream Team?
It was either 5 or 6.
Yeah, they talked a
I
lot
remember
about that.
you told me that something annoyed you in episode 6, and we would talk about it on the podcast. So
Okay. There it is. It was
if
episode
that's
6
it,
then. So, do you remember the part when they win the gold? They beat, I think it was Croatia in the championship game, and
yeah, they had Tony Kukoc.
yeah, and Michael is in the car, and he's sponsored by Nike. Obviously, I mean he's Nike's big guy. You saw the whole thing in 1984 when he took a chance on Nike, and obviously that was probably one of the best things they've ever done with their company,
Yep.
and himself too, because I think he's been a billionaire off of his Nike.
Yeah, they
endorsements.
said the first year, what they say that they
It was like
hoped to sell 3 to 4 million and ended up
Yeah.
selling like 126
Yes.
million.
When they said that number, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, that was the first year.
But that was cool. But the part that really pissed me off was, so he covered up the Reebok sign with the American flag, and he was in the car and he was talking a bunch of shit about Reebok and how the guy wanted him to show off their jumpsuits, and Michael didn't like it. Blah blah blah. Just kind of being a dick about it. Not just gonna wear the jumpsuit and just go out there for 5 minutes and get your pictures taken with your gold medal. Instead, he was like, no, he's like, watch what the fuck I'm about to do, and stuff like that. And Andrea Kramer, the dumbass who used to work for ESPN, I don't think she works there anymore. I think she works for NBC or CBS or something. Comes in, it's a talking head where she goes, that's just the kind of competitor Michael was. Off the court too, he was competitive with his sponsorships. I was like, no, he was just a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
For that. I was like, he could have just worn his Reebok jacket like everybody else for 10 minutes up on stage and then took it off immediately. He didn't have to go and be in the car with his agent saying, fuck these guys, I'm not going to do what they say, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that has nothing to do with him being competitive at all.
They use competitive a
Oh my
lot.
God.
When people are dickheads.
If you want to
For
have
the
a
good
drinking
ones.
game to the word competitive, you'll be drunk by the first 20 minutes.
Of this docuseries?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
know.
annoying.
That's all they talk about.
And before I get some thoughts on what you think, the other thing was when he quit basketball and went to play baseball, when that Sports Illustrated cover wrote that he should just like throw in the towel or bag it up, Michael, or whatever it said, he said he felt betrayed by SI. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, could you imagine him with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram? That just everyone's just kind of just thrown this out a lot. I've heard that plenty of times that he wouldn't be able to survive in social media. That one quote right there showed me that he could not, because he felt betrayed by what a fucking magazine wrote about him. And that's it. That was the one thing like ever that was ever been written terribly about Michael Jordan, and he couldn't take it.
Yeah, I agree that he couldn't take it, but I also think that you see throughout the documentary that like he'll cling on to any little thing and try to use it as fuel.
And that's fine. I think a lot of people do that.
I think that was a big part of it, and I also think, like you said, he wasn't used to people
Criticizing
telling
him.
yes, and he's bad at taking criticism. I think it shows a lot throughout the whole docuseries, even though he wants to portray himself in the light that he was the greatest teammate and all this. I think it's very clear he doesn't take well to people saying anything bad about him.
Yeah, and he, again, talking about him being a phenomenal teammate and what, I mean, it's clear that he just wasn't that good of a teammate to be around. I mean, he won. I mean, he won a lot. There's no question about that. Everyone knows. I mean, he was a winner. He did a lot. He was just unbelievable at basketball. But he just led in a way that I don't personally respect. I mean, he was
Okay, so that's
Steve
a better
Kerr.
way to say it. I was gonna interrupt here in a second and say I can't say he was a bad teammate, because I think he was doing a win at all cost type approach, and I think to him he was doing what he thought was
worked.
necessary to get everybody around him fired up to win. And yeah, it did work. He won 6 titles. I don't think it's a bad, but I think, I mean, if you look at Steve Kerr after he punched him, Steve Kerr said that was the best thing that ever happened to him, because he
It earned
showed
his
Michael he
respect.
wasn't going to back down.
Yep.
And then he earned Michael's respect, and from there on out, they played way better as a unit, and they just meshed a lot better. So, dude got punched in the face was the first one to say, "Hey, I think it took that for me, like for me and him to for him to understand I
Hmm.
want this as bad as you do." So I don't know. I see it a little differently. Do I think he was a saint by any means? No. I think he was a major dickhead who thought he was God himself, and he even mentioned that in
He
one point
said
of
that he
the
was God one time to
yeah,
the.
and then said he was just kidding. But
Yeah,
I
he
turned to Austin
wasn't.
right when he said it, and I was like, he wasn't kidding. He really believed that when he said it.
I said the
So
exact
like,
same thing to Connor because she's been watching it with me too.
yeah. So do I think he's just like a saint and all around just a great person? No, but I also wouldn't say he was a bad teammate. I would have liked to play with a guy like that.
See, that I don't know. Maybe it was just personality differences because,
Yeah.
like I said, I just don't respect leading in that way. And one of the things, and this might even resonate with you. I mean, weren't these a lot of the similar things that Michael's getting praised for, that Kobe got trashed for doing?
Well, how he wanted Shaq off the team or
These
whatever, and
these are a lot of the same similar things that Kobe was criticized for
I mean
years. I
Kobe
mean,
was honestly
basically
he was basically Michael's clone.
the last 10 years of Kobe's career, nobody wanted to play with him because they didn't like how he was at practice. They didn't like his attitude, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, and then he would get roasted by it in the media from whoever, ESPN, NBC, whatever you want to say. I mean, all of them were like, you can't, who was want to play with them anymore and things like that. So, and I'm not really even a Kobe fan. I mean, I never was. But that's just something that I was like, that just really resonates because he got criticized for doing that, and Michael's
A
getting
lot,
praised. Yeah,
a lot. So yeah, I don't like that aspect either. I think that's more media driven though. Like
I agree.
everybody just turns a blind eye to every bad thing that Michael did. There was, let's see, was it episode 7 or 8 where they're in the playoffs against. Gosh, I don't even remember who they were playing. Maybe the Suns, somebody, and or not the Suns, the Sonics.
Oh,
But
okay.
he turns the ball over, and he threw the bad pass. I think it was him. Anyway, they're on one side of the court, so they have to run down the entire side of the court. Michael angles the dude off at the basket and just ducks his head and walks underneath him, lets him dunk the ball right there. And I believe he was the one that turned the ball over.
He
And
was,
then
and I
and
believe you're talking about the Magic,
maybe it
actually,
was the
because I
Magic.
think it was Nick Anderson that stole the ball from Michael. Yeah,
But my point was, right when that happened, I stopped it, looked at Austin, rewinded it, and I said, I didn't think Jordan ever took a play off because if you listen to the media, you would think that every second of every game he went as hard as
yep.
he could.
And I've always heard that he never faltered at the end of the games or turned the ball over to lose a game. I've heard that
Or
he
passed
never
the
did
ball
that.
on the last shot.
Yeah, he did that against the Knicks in one of those playoff games where he didn't take the last shot. He dumped it off to Bill Wennington, I think it was.
Yep, there was that one. There was another one in was it the same exact game I'm thinking of against the Magic where he turned the ball over.
Oh, because he was trying to throw to Pippen and he threw it
Yes.
out of bounds.
And yeah, so he
Yeah.
turns the ball over.
So two straight
They
possessions.
quick score, and then they have 6 seconds to tie the game. They're down 3.
Mm-hmm.
They throw it into Michael. Instead of taking the 3, he goes in for a 2, which right there is a moronic play. What are you going to get 2 points with 6 seconds for? And then he, at the last second, passes it out of that shot and to a horrible pass to Scottie Pippen.
It was terrible. It was
and he
behind
goes
him.
out
It
of
went
bounds.
out of
Another
bounds.
turnover. So in one play, he made a mistake and he made the wrong basketball play by going in for a 2 and then passed out of the last second shot and he made the turnover to lose the game. I'm not saying he's not great. I don't want to take anything away from him. All I'm pointing out is the fact that the media always made it seem like the dude never made a mistake. He never passed out of the
Absolutely.
last shot. He never did anything wrong. And I was actually surprised to see that he put some plays like that in his
I am
document.
too. I actually really was too. I told Connor, I said, I'm surprised these were in there because guys like you and I, we're 26 years old. So people who say at our age who say they're like a huge Michael Jordan fan, you realize you were 4 years old when he won his last championship.
I
So
was just about to say that was
whenever
when
pe-
he won his
whenever
last.
people say that, I'm like, you're an idiot. Unless you went back and got the tapes from the NBA or your dad or your mom recorded all these games and you rewatched them, you didn't fucking watch Michael Jordan play basketball. So don't try and
No.
tell me you're a huge Michael Jordan fan. Guys in their 30s and 40s, I understand because you were like 10, 11 when he was dominating. So yeah, you probably loved him. That's how we grew up with guys like Kobe and LeBron and whatever. So it's just we've been told wrongly for many, many years that he never did these type of things. And that's the one thing that I think is shining a light on some of these episodes, because now you're finally starting to see that, yeah, he did make some mistakes in games. He wasn't always perfect, and I think that's getting a little light shined on it because there is Twitter now. Because there wasn't Twitter then when he played, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Instagram, so all these people are tweeting out like Michael's stat lines when Gary Payton played him really well in the last 3 games of the 96 finals, and he said the glove didn't bother me. You shot like 30% on 23 points a game in the last 3 games when Gary Payton guarded you. You struggled a little bit with him. Yes, you won the series, so ultimately it didn't matter, but he kind of locked you up for a little bit, and you just chose to ignore that and just laugh at the thing, and that became a meme. But yeah, and like I said, I think he's the second greatest player of all time. LeBron's my GOAT. I don't care what you say. You can. It's a debate. It's no definitive who's greater, who's whatever, who's worse. And the one thing that really just makes me mad, and this is just stupid, I'll stop having a conversation with you if you think this. If you think that guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron couldn't survive in the 80s and the 90s, you're just absolutely out of your fucking mind. And that Michael Jordan would average 45 in today's NBA is just not true.
And I also have always said, one, who says that if LeBron would have grown up in that era, he wouldn't have had the bully mentality?
That's a very good point.
It's not his fault that he grew up where flopping became a thing and he can get extra buckets out of it, and he grew up in this style of basketball. Mm-hmm. I don't give a fuck if what era they're in. You show me none of those guys, maybe Rodman, would have been able to stand in front of him at going full speed.
And that was just because Rodman was fucking nuts.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking like Jordan ain't getting in front of LeBron, stopping him going to the basket. And I've said this before. If LeBron wanted to average 40 a night, he could. He chooses not to. There's nobody stopping that dude when he gets to the lane.
Like I think Jordan's highest average was 37. I truly believe if LeBron wanted to average 37 points a game, he probably could.
But what was happening when Jordan scored 37 a game?
They weren't winning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And LeBron knows that.
Exactly.
He knows if I go get 40 a night, we're not going to win. That's not how
I don't give you the best chance to win because that doesn't utilize all of my skills as a basketball player.
So no, he just goes 28, 8 and 7 every year.
And Jordan went like 35 and 5. Nothing wrong with it. It's just they're honestly couldn't be the furthest apart from how they play the game.
No.
I mean, LeBron's always been a more Magic Johnson, Larry Bird type player. I mean, he's a facilitator. He's very comparable to Scottie Pippen. And Scottie was the perfect running mate for Michael. And I just don't like that Scottie doesn't get enough credit. I hear all the time that Scottie was so overrated. Scottie wasn't that good. He was only made because of Michael. The year Michael took off, I think Scottie averaged like 23, 8 and 6 and made the first All-Star game and was like finished third in MVP voting that year. How does that tell me he's not a good player? He's one of the greatest 30 players of all time.
I would agree with that.
They were just a really good team. I mean,
you know what else makes me mad in this debate?
What's that?
Because I actually do find it's a debate. I can see why a lot of people think Jordan's the GOAT. I can. You can make the argument, and I'll listen to it. What I have found is most people that argue LeBron or Michael's the GOAT don't feel that way. They're like, LeBron's not even close. It's Michael light years above everybody. And it's like, dude, for you to even make a statement that it's not close, it just shows your knowledge of the game.
It's just hatred. It's
even though I
believe
LeBron is the best player, I will hear your argument out and say you make good points. I see it, but to me, LeBron's the GOAT.
Agreed.
And I can give you valid points. Why?
Agreed.
For the flip side, it just annoys the shit out of me when someone's like, "No, Michael's the GOAT." You don't even understand. It's not close. There's no one that compares to Michael. Michael is easily the greatest player of all time. It's like those are all not true statements.
I agree with that. And another thing, it's always drove me nuts forever is the killer instinct type thing.
I like it.
I absolutely hate it because, and I mean, I think this was something that got brought up a lot. I saw on Twitter and stuff like that. It was like there was a quote in 2012 or 2013 that LeBron had where he described where when people think he doesn't have a killer instinct or whatever. He's like something about how he watched the Discovery Channel and there's a lot of different animals in the world and a lot of them choose to kill differently. A lot of them eat differently. They don't all go out and attack like for example, in basketball, like a LeBron or like a Kobe and an MJ, because theirs was very similar. They came at your throat. They wanted to take the last shot every single time, although it may not have been the greatest decision. LeBron was just different. I mean, it's just a different way of attacking the game. That doesn't mean he doesn't want to win as badly as, say, a Michael does, because as we talked about earlier, they say competitiveness, and he's such a great competitor, blah, blah, blah. It's just, there's just different ways to do things in life. There's not saying that one is better than the other. It's just there's differences.
I agree with that too. I don't think competitive instinct should be used to explain why Jordan's the GOAT. I just think it's a real thing, and that I would love to I feel if I was a player, I would be the one that had the killer instinct over the one who didn't.
But the thing I hate about it most is how that does not deter the other team from being good. Like that like
no, I agree.
Like
I
that,
just like it really helps you in the it could hinder you as well, I guess, at the end of a game, because you believe it's going
you
in.
could have this killer instinct like a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, and you just fucking suck.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter
that's
how
why
much you want to win.
Be able to use it to argue a player's greatness. I'm just saying I like that. I think it's a real thing, and I would like to play with people who had it.
I'm very different on that, because we're talking about a lot LeBron and MJ and whatnot, and it's just like I've seen a lot of debates about the 95-96 Bulls. Would they beat the 2018 Warriors with Clay, KD, Steph, and Draymond and whatnot? And a lot of people were saying that the Bulls would sweep them. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? They couldn't even sweep the Sonics in 96 with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. I mean, you really think they're sweeping Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond, Iggy? I mean, they're just not beating that team.
Not a chance.
And that's the thing. That was the whole point, where LeBron didn't have a killer instinct to beat that team. Michael would have easily beaten that team by himself. But if Scottie Pippen isn't as good as I think he is, and everybody else has said, Michael wasn't beating that team by himself. I mean, if he beat every other team by himself, he ain't beating the KD Warriors with them.
What rules we playing with when we say
it doesn't matter?
I think it kind of does, because if it was
different in like 90. Okay, it was. What I said to you was the documentary failed to explain how after the 89 Eastern Conference Finals, Michael Jordan went to David Stern and requested that there be a flagrant foul put in, and it so was for the very next season when the Bulls got over the Pistons because they couldn't throw Michael, which I think is complete bullshit anyways, because that's just not basketball. That's just cheap shots, and I hated that. I didn't agree with anything that they did, but they steered away from it because they had to, because they would have been thrown out of the game, or there was just different rules put in after that season. I don't care what rules you're putting in, because that Bulls team, is their physicality forcing Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant not to shoot over them? No, it's not. I don't care what rules there are.
I do. I think it would have been a very good series, not a sweeper by any means, if they were playing with the older rules where hand checking was allowed, because you've seen when players get physical with Steph, he's not a physical player, so they're able to throw him around. He can't drive to the lane, so he's taking nothing but threes. I just feel like Jordan's going to go really on Steph, and then Pippen take Clay and Rodman on Durant.
I'm taking the Warriors in 5 or 6.
I didn't say I wouldn't take the Warriors. I think you're saying that it wouldn't even be close and the Warriors are going to kill them, and I just don't believe that to be true.
I think they would win in 5 or 6 games. I think they would still win. I was saying it the other way. There was a lot of people saying that the Bulls would have swept that team, and
that's just idiotic.
1,000% false. That was the greatest talent ever assembled on a court in the history of the sport.
Yeah, those Warriors just throwing the ball in the net from all over.
Yeah, I mean, they had like the highest net rating of all time in the playoffs in both 2017 and 2018, and would have won in 2019 had KD not torn his Achilles or Clay torn his ACL.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the Warriors wouldn't have won. I'm just saying.
I don't even know how we even got into that discussion.
I don't either, actually.
All right, let's just go back to the documentary. Just full on. You said that you liked it. I mean,
I've really been interested in it. I'm ready for the next 2 episodes.
I don't think it's bad by any means, but like I said, I don't think there's much original content in there that we didn't already know. It's
Uh,
just retelling a lot of the story,
it is.
which is cool for a lot of the people that maybe didn't know about it. And I don't know, I've always loved the NBA, so I'm just kind of a historian, so I knew a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, see, my memory's not the best, so I'm going through here eyes wide open, like I'm learning so much right now. And I also like it because even you can watch highlights and you can watch everything. I know this is made by Jordan and he's tailoring it to himself to make himself look really good, but I do think it does show a lot of things that people our age, like you said, we were 4 years old when
Mm-hmm.
he won his last championship. So the majority of his career, we weren't even
We didn't see
alive
most
for.
of it, yeah.
So, well, really, I didn't see any of it,
Well, that's true.
but I wasn't even alive for the majority of it. So,
No.
like, I can't sit here and just say I didn't learn some shit watching this because it was so long ago. And it's fun to see other things like how he interacted with Reggie Miller and the Dream Team.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings up, like, not even just about Jordan. People forget that the Sonics used to have a really good fucking team back in the day.
And how good Charles Barkley was.
I loved the
And
whole episode dedicated basically to Kobe, talking like how they
yeah.
had like a brotherhood and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That was really cool to see.
Like I said, I thought the Rodman stuff was cool because there was a lot of
It
stuff about
was.
Dennis Rodman that I didn't know, like how he grew up and whatnot. And yeah, I mean the whole them playing pickup games when
Like I
Michael was
didn't
filming Space
realize
Jam with a bunch
I
of
wasn't even using
stars.
this reason before when I would debate LeBron and Jordan that like I guess I was just oblivious or never really knew that he was on the Pistons. I didn't know Rodman was destroying Jordan on the Pistons,
Oh, you
and they
didn't
had
know
to
he
go
played for
get
Detroit?
him. No, to
Huh.
weaken the team that they couldn't get by and take their best player. What
Yeah, I mean
isn't that?
he was traded to San Antonio before he went to Chicago, and they talked about that in the documentary too. They traded him because he just the whole thing where they found him in the car with the gun. They thought he was going to commit suicide and whatever, and then so they just were like, we got to get this guy out of here. He's causing some issues, so they traded him to San Antonio, and then the
I'm
Bulls were
just
like, we
thinking
can
like
get him, we can
to
change
use it in
him.
the we're not going to get into the Jordan LeBron debate and make it go forward, but everyone used they didn't make it a big deal when or they made it a huge deal. I'm sorry, when KD went to the Warriors just to
Mhm.
beat LeBron, and then LeBron out here just doing his little thing, but nobody fails to mention the fact that the Bulls. You can tell me all you want. Jordan didn't have anything to do with it, but you can see Jordan basically ran that team,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
they.
You heard it many times that he had a say in this, and that's a thing
But
that where LeBron played GM. A lot of people are very critical of him doing that. Jordan had a huge say in everything the Bulls did. You can see
exactly.
that
But
in
what I'm
all
saying
of
is
these episodes.
they can't beat the Pistons, and then Jordan doesn't say anything to upper management, but yet they go get basically the best player off of the team that
Yeah.
they couldn't beat and bring him to their own just to get by him. But
Yes.
that's never brought up.
And he talked about, I don't remember who it was, but he talked about how I think it was either Jerry Krause or it was the voice of him because they don't have him in there because they clearly hate that guy. So
Yeah.
they didn't have one interview with him, but it's a lot of voiceovers or stuff he had said previously.
Well,
Maybe
isn't Jerry Krause dead?
I don't know. He might be.
I think he died like 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. R.I.P. I didn't know that.
R.I.P.
But anyways,
That's why he's not doing the
I don't
interviews
think he
on
would have
that.
been in it anyways because they didn't like him. But maybe it was Reinsdorf, the owner of the former owner of the Bulls. He said we went to Michael about signing a few players and seeing if he was okay with it. One of those two said that, and I'm just like, well, there you go. I'm like, they ran it by. That's what a lot of teams do. They run shit by your best player. Are you okay with this guy? Do you think this will help us win? We're going to go try and target this guy? Should we really do it? It's happened for years. I mean, it's not like it just happened in the 2010s with the Heat.
What I'm saying is, I just feel like LeBron gets all the criticism for all the same things Jordan did, but yet Jordan is looked at as like
Every player gets criticism for what Jordan did. He's the only one that gets praised for all this stupid shit. And this basketball is the only sport. This is something we were arguing about earlier. Not really arguing, but just talking about. Basketball is the only sport that old people can't see the evolution of athletes just getting better.
yeah.
It's just
Everyone still
it's
thinks
blinding.
Jordan would be the fastest player in the NBA or the strongest. I'm like, I don't think you realize
The whole
what
the-
is happening to these dudes.
the whole thing when they talked about the Pistons series when he was like he put on 15 pounds of muscle from go to like 198 to like 215. I'm like half the guys are 250, 240 now. I mean, Russell Westbrook's a point guard
215
who's
looked at a small player.
yeah, like that's like Steph Curry is 215.
Yeah, he's probably like 185, but
Whatever.
yeah, I get your drift.
But that's what I'm saying. That's like the normal thing now. I mean, and I know it had a lot to do with NBA players really didn't lift much back in the early 80s and 90s and whatever, but it's just hilarious. Some of those
That's what I'm
things,
saying.
man.
I think LeBron was just as in his prime. LeBron was just as fast as Michael was,
Probably faster. I mean, it just
and
happens.
he
It's the
was
natural evolution of
265,
humanity.
270 pounds, and 3 inches tall, 2 inches taller.
I mean, Giannis, for example, another guy. Giannis is 6'10" and jumps out of the gym, probably runs like just for 40, probably runs like a 4.5 40. Same thing with Westbrook and Kawhi. All these guys are tremendous. Zion Williamson. I mean,
Do you want to know the thing I hate the most about this documentary?
what's that?
Because I really like the documentary, but this is just making me mad. They'll start off and on the Dream Team. They'll bounce to his rookie year. Then they'll go to 1998 where he was winning his last championship. Then they bounce back to Phil being hired as the head coach. Then they go all the way to the end and show him on the Wizards. Then they go all the way back to his rookie year, and I'm just like, what is happening, dude? Can we go in chronological order here?
I would have liked to have seen a chronological order as well.
And
It's a
maybe that's
little
just me and
it's a
you,
little confusing at
But
times.
I'm like, holy Christ, what year are we in now? All of a sudden, dude's got rocking number 45, and then all of a sudden we're back to him at North Carolina. And I'm like, what is going on?
That's another thing that Jordan gets a pass for is that 94 season when he came back and they lost in the playoffs to the Magic. That's something
I did not like the fact that what he say was the reason why he wasn't in NBA shape.
Yeah, because he was building his body for baseball instead of basketball. And then and everyone was making excuses for that. I'm like, he chose to leave.
Yeah.
It wasn't anyone else's fault but his own. He chose to just walk away from the game. And that's another thing, too. How competitive, they've said that 100 million times in this documentary. How competitive is that to walk away from the game that you so desperately love?
But then
that's
their
another
quick
thing that
rebuttal
doesn't make
is,
much sense.
but he loved it so much he came back and then he won 3 more.
Yeah, that's fine. But, I mean, you also gave it up twice.
Yeah. I'm not defending the dude. I'm just telling you what his fans would say.
Oh, okay. You're saying what everybody else says. I'm just saying. And like I said, I mean, this is kind of sounds like we're bashing it a little bit. I mean, him in itself, but
hey, I like the documentary.
Like I said, it's good, but there's just not much stuff that I didn't already know. That's the only thing about it. It's been a little disappointing because I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. Like I said, and you kind of glanced over a little bit, the part when they played the Suns in the 93 finals, which absolutely was Jordan's greatest series probably of all time. I mean, the dude averaged 41 points in a NBA finals. That's incredible.
Yeah. And they won with him doing it.
Yeah. And, I mean, Charles Barkley, that just showed how good Charles Barkley was, because that's what a lot of people don't understand, too. Just because he didn't win a ring doesn't mean he's not one of the all-time greats. I mean, that dude was awesome.
He was a monster.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you heard him, and it was in the Dream Team practice. So how many years in Michael Jordan was at that time? That Charles Barkley said, that's the first time in my career that I didn't believe I was the best player in the world.
Yep. And because Chuck won MVP that year, and that was what Michael fueled to dominate them in the finals.
Because he felt he should have had it.
Because he thought he should have won that year. He might have. I mean, I think people just get voter fatigue. I mean, you could argue he could have 10 MVPs, just like you could argue LeBron should have 10. There's a lot of people that should have more. But anyways, and the whole thing was when Draymond said that he was better than Charles Barkley because he doesn't have any rings. I like Draymond Green, and I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's a really good player, but he can't hold Charles Barkley's jockstrap. He just can't. No. Charles Barkley was awesome.
If you put Charles Barkley with the rest of that Warriors team, they would have went 82-0. What I'm saying, if they would have had Steph, Clay, Durant, and
Charles Barkley
instead of
Draymond Green.
Yeah. They're not being touched. That would be the greatest team ever assembled.
Yes.
Draymond just was a product of the system.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a good defender.
And like
and
I said, I really
player.
like Draymond. I think he's going to go into the Hall of Fame one day. I really do. But he's not Charles Barkley. He's not. I don't care that he has 3 rings and Chuck has 0.
He was the 4th best player on the team.
And that's the whole thing. Another thing that really makes me mad. ESPN did that ranking of the 75 greatest players. I think they did, and they had Bill Russell at fourth, and I'm just like, come on. They had Kobe at ninth and Shaq at 10th. I'm like, this list is atrocious. This list is awful. I mean, they had
Yeah.
MJ at one and LeBron at two, Kareem at
They
three.
have to do that shit. I'm not putting Wilt in there.
No.
I'm not putting Clyde Drexler in there. I'm putting the dudes that just are monsters of today because they're just better.
Yes, and Hakeem Olajuwon is a guy that never gets enough credit. He's better than Bill Russell. I mean, Bill Russell played in the 50s. I mean,
And even Bill Walton. You know what I'm saying? That dude
I've-
would be he would be obsolete in today's NBA.
absolutely. The dude couldn't even move.
So
It's
I'm
just,
not
there's
taking that.
I don't know what it is, but there's just a lot of blindness when it comes to ancient players. I
I
mean,
don't. Yeah,
I don't care that Bill Russell won 11 titles. He would not win 11 titles in this. He would not won 11 titles in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. He wouldn't have.
I agree.
He just wouldn't have. So I can't stand when people have Bill Russell in their top five. If you start a top five list and Bill Russell's in it, you shouldn't be allowed to talk basketball
That's like
anymore.
I hate it. That's like when like you do NFL lists of like who's like the greatest center of all time, and they're like, oh, it was this 230-pound center from 1998 or 1978, and I'm like, oh, you mean what running backs weigh now? You're
Yeah.
expecting this dude to block J.J. Watt. That's who you think is the best center of all time.
Yeah, and you said that just talking about NFL when they did that like top 100 team the NFL Network did, and Steve Largent was in the top 10 greatest receivers of all time. I'm like, oh my god! And they didn't have T.O. in it, or Calvin Johnson, or Julio Jones. I was like, Steve Largent, are you kidding me? He played in like the 70s when there wasn't any other good athletes in the league.
He probably ran a 4.840.
I'm just like, he
which
was a
is
good
what
player in
offensive
his
linemen
time,
are running
but there's
nowadays.
been 40 players since him that have been better at his position. So I get it. There's just some nostalgia because the old guys are in charge of doing a lot of the stuff and they grew up watching him. So yeah, it's just it just baffles me, man. It does. It's comical, honestly. I just have to laugh. Sometimes I'm like, you just don't know what you're talking about.
You and me are on the same page, man.
I think a lot of people our age agree with that. It's just there's so many guys 45 and older who are on national television, like Mike Wilbon, like Skip Bayless, like Cowherd, or in their 50s and shit, who watched a lot of these guys play and just for some fascination can't see that athletes are bigger, faster, stronger now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Peyton Manning's my all-time favorite quarterback. If there comes a time in 30 years when a guy has the brain of Manning, he's going to be way faster than he's running out here running a 4.25 and has a cannon because they're just bigger, stronger, faster.
Exactly.
You don't think I'm going to say that dude's better?
Exactly. I mean, it's probably bound to happen that there's going to be. I mean, that's obviously a very debatable thing too. But in my eyes, there's never been a better quarterback than Peyton either. But I mean, a lot of people are comparing Trevor Lawrence to Peyton. They think he has the mind of Peyton, and he's obviously way more athletic and probably has a stronger arm because Peyton really didn't have a strong arm. He was just so smart and beat you with accuracy, anticipation. But if Trevor Lawrence is that guy, I mean, maybe one day he is. I don't know. Maybe Patrick Mahomes becomes that.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Patrick had a stronger arm than Peyton, more athletic than
Strongest arm in
Peyton.
the history of the game.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just like they're getting bigger, they're getting stronger,
Yes.
they're getting faster every
Medicine's
single
better.
year.
Strength training is better. Nutrition is better. It's just they just need to understand, man.
One day when millennials are running the sports programs,
Mhm.
maybe.
Maybe. Then there'll still be the old guys that want to write in and say some shit. All right. But, I mean, do you got anything else to say other than about this?
No, we
this
can get
Last
out of here
Dance
on that.
and whatnot? Like
I'm
I said,
looking forward to the next episodes.
I'm excited to watch them too. Like I said, I don't think it's bad. I just wish there would have been a little bit more. That's the only thing. That's my biggest critique of it, and just the whole oblivions to anything wrong that Michael Jordan ever did. That too.
That's been honestly my biggest takeaway
Yep.
from this whole thing is that the dude did make mistakes,
Exactly.
but yet he's looked at like he's never made
What is he,
one.
perfect and just is like etched in stone by the Greek gods. But great player, good documentary. And I mean, I think the documentary's done really well. I think it's got a good mix of interviews, highlights, talking heads. It's got obviously a lot of good people. Phil, Michael, Scottie Pippen, Rodman, everybody that was there. So they know everything that happened back then, and some of the media guys too. So I think, like I said, it's done extremely well. So props to whoever did this.
Yeah, now give me the next 2 episodes. Exactly. Was it Sunday?
Sunday. Yep. Yeah, but okay. That'll do it for Jay and I. Remember, as always, to subscribe to the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can tweet at us, comment on our posts, whatever. Email us, unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com. Rate and review if you haven't done that already. That helps Jay and I out tremendously.
Plus, I just like to read them.
Or that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's get out of here, Jay.
Hey, what's your shirt say?
It says whatever it takes. It's an Avengers shirt.
Of course it is. All right.
Marvel all day, man. Whatever it takes.
I said until next time.